Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be drawing letters in two-point perspective. So I'm going to start out with a horizon line that can be anywhere on the page, and this yardstick is a bit too long for me and it's the only one I have, so I'm just going to work with a straight edge. So I just have this piece of plexiglass I'm going to use. It's straight, so it works. What I'm going to do next is draw two vanishing points. Now, when we do things in perspective, it's a lot easier to work with when we have our vanishing points at the edge of the paper. That way we have a lot more space to work with. If you want even more space, you could take the points off of the paper and just tape a couple scraps onto it with the points, and that'll give you extra space to work with. But we'll just leave them here. And to start working with letters, I'm going to actually start by making boxes, and I'm going to keep my letters inside the box. So I'm going to draw my converging lines from the vanishing points. They'll connect together with a vertical line in between them. And then I'm going to draw converging lines from the other vanishing point. So remember, converging lines say exactly what their name implies. They converge or come together at the vanishing points. Now I'm drawing some vertical lines here to give me an idea of where my letters are going to go. So I'm starting with an F, and all of those horizontal lines are going to be converging lines. Then, to make the sides, they're converging lines that go to the opposite vanishing point. We can see working with the U that I make sure the top and bottom are converging lines, and then the curves kind of follow. And then I make parallel lines that follow the exact same curves. Now I'm moving on to an N, same process, and then we connect all of those extra points to the opposite converging line, or opposite vanishing point. So the same goes for any letter. If you are doing anything that's horizontal, it should be a converging line. If you're doing anything that's not horizontal, it's most likely upright and vertical. Then to create the sides, we just find every corner and connect them to the opposite vanishing point. Because my letters are so close together, I'm not really going to have to draw too many parallel lines outside of the first two letters because they're covering up the back sides of the letters or the thickness of the letters. You can always measure the distance with your ruler or with your pencil to figure out if you're going to see the back side of any of your letters. And then we have our final letter. Having so much fun drawn in perspective. Fun times. All right. So I'm going to finish up with the curved parallel line on the back of the S. So make sure that when you're drawing the back sides of letters that they do follow the same shape as the others. So my S curves, I'm going to make a curved letter. Now to shade it, we need to know where our light source is coming from. So I'm just going to make this little sun up here just because I know that my light is coming from that direction. You don't have to draw anything, but sometimes it's helpful. So my light's going to be coming from the right to left, and so everything on the left side is going to be a lot darker than the stuff on the right side, especially things towards the bottom. So we notice the U is curving down. That's going to obviously be darker because it is behind things. So I'm just going to fill in all these dark areas. They get a little lighter as they get towards the top, unless if there's an overhang, then obviously it's going to be darker in that area. And I'm just going to shade in those areas to give our letters some dimension. So I get a little bit lighter. And now we're going to add another word down at the bottom. So this way you can see what happens when you draw a letter that's either above or below the horizon line. So I'm going to start by making boxes in 2-point perspective again, but this time we're actually going to see the tops of them because remember the horizon line is at eye level, so anything below your eye level, you're going to see the top of it. Just as anything above your eye level, you would see the bottom of it. So I'm going to challenge myself here and actually make some lowercase letters that are a bit more curvy. Um, Obviously, you don't have to do that if you're not up for a challenge, but I like how the parallel lines look. So as I'm drawing this, I just need to remember that every line that is straight up and down or vertical on a letter would still be straight up and down. And then I start with these hard converging lines, but then I end up curving them to make them a little more organic. So now that I have my letters drawn out, I'm going to erase the extra converging lines that I started with. And now we're on to creating the sides of the letters. So we're just going to find the corners of our letters and create converging lines going to the opposite vanishing point. And then create parallel lines to make the sides of our letters. So whether they are straight up and down or whether they curve, sometimes finding the right area for our curve gets a little challenging. So in cases like that, we just need to make sure we measure everything to make sure it's the same width. And just remember when we're finding parallel lines on a curve, we just move our ruler to the furthest edge that we find, same as in 1-point perspective. And just make sure when you're making those converging lines that you're always lining your converging lines up with the vanishing point. So if they're not at a vanishing point, it's not correct. So I've got my final converging lines made on yeah, and now it's time to shade. So the light's still coming from the same direction, so that means the tops are going to be pretty light and then the front sides are going to be very dark because they're the furthest away from the light. So my shading on the sides of the letters kind of starts off a little darker and then gets lighter the closer it gets to the light. Inside the curves, it's going to be darker until it gets closer to the light as well. And once we're all finished with this, there you have it, letters in 2-point perspective. So stay tuned for more of my videos and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.